All right, let's do it. It's time for the Hot Read Heat Index Week 1 Overreactions Edition. JT, we have listed pre-show a number of popular takes that I have seen floating around the internet, floating around the sewers of Twitter, of X, whatever you want to call it. Things, or a handful of things that maybe I think we should just talk about. Some topics that I think are pertinent to the Titans after their Week 1 game. A couple of things from the AFC South, and then a handful of league-wide topics that I want to discuss. Those of you in the comments, we would love for you to participate here. Not only would I love for you to, again, if you're not on Broadway Sports Media's YouTube page right now on the live stream of this show, when you're watching live, go there. Leave whatever stream you're watching, Broadway Sports Media on YouTube. The comment section there is where you can play along with us. But we're going to give a rating, and those unfamiliar with the Hot Read Heat Index, here's how it works. Very simple. It's a heat index on the hotness of the take, right? So to clarify, it is a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the hottest, 1 being the coldest, right? And these are not, it's not a true false scale. It is the boldness of the take that the heat index is grading. So you can have an 8 out of 10 hot take that I might argue it's hot, it's a bold take, and I agree with it. I think it's right. And you can have a pretty common take, something that the masses are saying might be a 2, not a very hot take, very common. And I think it's whack. I think it's crazy. So that's the distinction. We are grading the heat index, how hot this take is, how bold a take it is, but then also determining whether we think it's an accurate take or not. And so we'd love, as we are going to play judge today, those of you in the comments, play the jury, give us your thoughts on each of these takes. And then if you've got any overreaction takes from Week 1 of any kind in the NFL that you would love to contribute to the show today, we'd love to have those. JT's going to be monitoring the comments, can flag those, and then at the end of our pre-planned takes here, we can talk about the takes that you contribute to today's show. All right, JT, would you do me a favor and kind of take over hosting responsibilities here? Lead us through. Let's start with the Titans overreaction Week 1 takes first.
Yeah, we have a multitude of these to get into, but the guy with the most takes this week has to be Ryan Tannehill. Ryan Tannehill has been a hot commodity this week, but the first take I'm going to give you is that the Titans should bench Ryan Tannehill now.
Yeah, and on our rundown, I wrote Ryan Tannehill in all caps as this take because I was trying to find a way to encapsulate all the Ryan Tannehill takes into one, but there's so many flying. We've got like 3 or 4 we're going to address the sub takes on the Ryan Tannehill genre here. So the first, like you said, bench Ryan Tannehill now. The Hot Read Heat Index on this take it's a 9. It's a flaming hot take. It's very reactionary. It's very much an overreaction, and it's a bad take. It's dumb. What would benching Ryan Tannehill now accomplish for you, JT? If you're thinking about this team, either in the short term, what can we accomplish this season, and or looking at the long-term future of this team. So Ryan Tannehill was under contract for a large sum of money through this season. The Titans are paying him for his services, and they did not get their money's worth on Sunday in Week 1, obviously. But I want to first address folks that are talking about Ryan Tannehill after this game, and it's so predictable, but it's so dumb. It's reactionary nonsense. I've got the blinders on. It's peak fan brain, USDA 100% beef fan brain. It is meathead stuff to talk about Ryan Tannehill after this game like he is this loser quarterback that sucks and has sucked and will always suck. And what you saw on Sunday is reflective of what Ryan Tannehill is. Okay, Ryan Tannehill has by a pretty comfortable margin, large winning record as a Tennessee Titan. He has won far more games for you as a Titan than he has lost. And I think maybe the more fair way of talking about him and the way he's been talked about in the past, again, it's negative, but it's more accurate. Ryan Tannehill, very good regular season quarterback. He stinks in the playoffs. Okay, that's more on base. I think you can have that conversation about stinking in the playoffs and sample size and all of that. But that's how he's been talked about in the past. And then he comes into Week 1 this year, his first game since I think Week 14, 15 last year, because people forget he was placed on IR to end the season with that tightrope ankle surgery that he needed with the sprained ankle, the broken ankle. He's not played, and then in the preseason, he hands the ball off 3 times in the third game. That's the extent of his playing time. It's not crazy that he was bad in this game. The explanation, and we asked Mike Vrabel on Monday what the explanation for it was, and it was for him after having a chance to watch the tape, simply, I don't know, he had a bad game. Like, explain away Josh Allen's bad game. Explain away Joe Burrow's bad game from this week. It's just guys have bad games. You know, you have a bad day at the office. That's what Ryan Tannehill had. He was bad in this game. Is it reflective of what he is as a quarterback, though? Almost certainly not. Like, there is in the realm of possibilities, he's just washed, and this is who he is now. That's technically, there's a universe in which that may be the universe, the timeline that we're on. But almost certainly the case here is that it was an outlier performance, considering, like we talked about on Monday's show, it was, statistically speaking, the worst game of his career. That makes it the most outlier than it can be, right? Like, if Ryan Tannehill comes in to week 2, Nissan Stadium, hosting the Chargers this week, throws for 380 yards, 4 touchdowns, and has 30 rushing yards, and has 119.4 QB rating. That's also an outlier performance. No one's going to then turn around, rightfully so, and be like, Ryan Tannehill, that's who this quarterback is. No, they're outlier performances. You got to take the median of the sample size. And the median of the sample size for Ryan Tannehill is he's a great trailer quarterback, but he's not a tractor. He's not pulling the team. You hitch the Ryan Tannehill wagon to your squad and hope that the squad is good enough to pull a Ryan Tannehill. He's not going to ruin things for you. You can win with him, but you're not going to win because of him. And that's what he is. And so the idea that you should bench Ryan Tannehill now, again, what does it accomplish now? This season, nothing. You are not winning more games with Malik Willis. You are not winning more games with Will Levis. I'm just telling you, the team thinks so. The coaches think so. The front office thinks so. A guy in me and anybody else in the media group that has watched all 3 of these quarterbacks for the past 6 weeks will tell you definitively that's not happening. And so that's not accomplishing anything this season unless you're trying to tank. And then if you're trying to tank, the argument is this team's not bad enough to tank with any of the 3 quarterbacks. Like, did you see what this defense was capable of in that game, what the defensive front is capable of? Have you noticed how everyone's talking about the offense in the sense that, like, well, kind of everything else worked. Ryan Tannehill just had a really bad game. Well, if the rest of the supporting squad on offense was really nice, and we're going to get to some more of this in the future, but, the offensive line played better than we thought. Hey, Chig and Treylon Burks and DeAndre Hopkins, they were getting open. Tannehill just couldn't hit them. You can't be bad if the rest of the team is good. That you can't tank. Mike Vrabel, does that guy strike you as somebody that's going to tank? It's not happening. So, yeah, it's a crazy take. It's 9 on the hot read heat index scale, and it's bad. It's not correct.
And then we have 2 others here, which I think basically just complement what you just said. So we'll just just rate them, and then we'll move on. But the first one, Tannehill has a short leash. How would you rate that one?
Yeah, I wanted to talk about this one in particular. I'd give it on the heat index. I would give it not quite as hot as benching him now. I'd say it's a 7.5. And the reason why is because folks are talking about how, you don't bench Tannehill now. Obviously, it's just week 1, but he may only, 2 or 3 games in, if he's still not pulling his weight, you could see him benched. They could be 0-3 and he gets sat down. I don't, setting aside whether I think it's the right idea or not, just as a prognosticator of evaluating this team, the coaches, what they're thinking, what's going through their head on this topic, it's not happening. The very, very earliest that I say not happening, that is assuming, again, that week 1 was an outlier performance. If he throws 9 interceptions and 0 touchdowns through 3 games, not only is that an all-time 5-alarm fire, worst 3-game stretch for a starting level quarterback that we've seen maybe ever, and like historically relevant in the NFL, like it'd be crazy for that to happen, then that's a different story, right? Where I'm assuming here that what we saw on Sunday was the floor for the near future for Ryan Tannehill. It may not get good, but it's not going to be worse than that, right? It may just be fine. That being said, assuming it's not an all-time historic disaster, the earliest that I can see them considering benching him is after the bye. They play Baltimore in week 6 in London. They have the bye in week 7. Maybe coming out of the bye into week 8 is when, if they are 1-5, 0-6, they maybe start to think about that. But as I talked about a little bit in the hot read take purge a couple of episodes ago now, and I said it half jokingly in that episode, but I kind of believe it. I'm more inclined to think that this team, this coaching staff, this front office is going to hang on to Tannehill as the starter longer. If things go south, they're going to hang on to him as the starter longer than fans want them to. And the reason behind that is, again, he's the guy that gives you the best chance to win. And yes, maybe for the first month of this season, all indications based on the performance on the field, the outcome on the wins and losses column points to, they're not going to win. You got to change your tack. Zoom out. Think about what this team has been doing, what they've been telegraphing to you, their intentions are based on their movements, based on their decisions, based on their transactions, based on their drafting for the past 6 months since Ran Carthen, 5 months, however long it's been since Ran Carthen has been the GM of this team, and it's been Ran and Mike running the show. Everything they've done has indicated that they are trying to win now, not touching the contract of Ryan Tannehill or Derrick Henry, but certainly not moving either of them. Signing guys like Jeffrey Simmons, keeping the defense intact, bringing in a DeAndre Hopkins in free agency, drafting for now, but also for the future, a good deal as well. Like everything, as we've talked about on this show for months, they're trying to win now. They're not going to throw away months and months of planning based on one bad month or two of the start of the season, especially, like I said, in the take purge. When you look at the back 2/3 of this team's schedule, it's red meat, man. There's a lot of winnable games there. And even if they are 0-6 is like the all-time bad, right? That'd be I think a unique scenario. But if they're 2-4, 1-5, they're going to look at the back half of that schedule and say, we could win 9 of 10 here. We really think that we could. We're not giving up on this team, and we're not giving up on Ryan Tannehill. So I don't think he has a short leash. I think the shortest you could conceivably see it being is 6 weeks. But even then, I think that's a stretch.
Yeah, and then one more here, which this one I came across and just had to throw in here because, oh boy, this was a this one is kind of insane, and I think it might break the index here. But trade Ryan Tannehill to the New York Jets,
very popular based on last night's outcome.
And by proxy, someone in the chat here saying do that and then bring Carson Wentz to Tennessee once you do that.
That picture of Carson Wentz with the Eagles helmet, the Commander's jersey, and the Colts pants or whatever it was.
Yeah,
one person wants to add a Tennessee Titans sleeve. Is that what he wants to add to the ensemble for Carson Wentz? Yeah, that's 100 on the scale. That had to be a joke. It's not a joke. You see a mental professional. As for trading Tannehill to the Jets, it's not a crazy thought based on Aaron Rodgers dying last night. When we talk about league-wide overreactions in a little bit in the show, we're going to talk about the Jets and Aaron Rodgers. I saw some people clowning this, and I guess if you have a particular hatred for Rodgers or the Jets, I can kind of get it. But as an NFL fan, I hate all injuries to quarterbacks, no matter the quarterback, because it makes the product, the viewing experience worse. Like, I like to watch the best possible football overall. Like, yeah, you're rooting for your team, whatever. But bad football sucks to watch. Who wants to watch these backups play? I don't. Who wants to watch Zach Wilson for the next 17 weeks? I don't think anybody wants to do that. So I don't get relishing an injury like that, and especially when it's such a deflating moment for a cursed franchise. Okay, we'll talk about that later. But yeah, Tannehill to the Jets. There's probably going to be a phone call there. The Jets are going to, they're going to work the phones. They're going to check in on all their potential options. From the Jets perspective, I kind of get it. Like, he'd be on the higher end of guys you could potentially bring in to fill in. But on the Titans side of things, again, it goes along with their faith in him and unwillingness to move on so quickly and be so reactionary. It's not happening. There may be a phone call there, but it's not serious. I give that an 8 on the hot read heat. I give it a 9. It's a 9 take. It's a very hot take, and it's not an accurate one.
Let's move on to a different position here on the Tennessee Titans here.
Wait, no, I have one more. I listed one more. Did you see it?
Yeah. I see it here. Okay.
I added it because this is
the last one. The last one here. Tannehill is washed.
Right, and not to beat the Tannehill horse forever, but this is the last element of Ryan Tannehill from week 1 that I want to talk about. I don't, Zach in the comments, the good news is TVs have multiple ways to avoid watching the games with bad quarterback play. Yeah, yes, you can always go to different. I just like as much good quarterback play as possible, personally. But Yeah, this is something that has been talked about, and I think Zach may have mentioned, maybe it was Zach, maybe it was Braden on their show. I've heard talked about a couple of times so far this week, whether or not we think Ryan Tannehill's performance in week one was indicative of what he is now. And in particular, the most concerning thing for me, I got a chance this morning to go back and finally watch some of the coaching tape. Didn't really do a deep dive, just kind of did a rewatch from those perspectives of the game. The thing that I was left with, and I've seen people say this, and I agree, the most concerning element of Tannehill's play from this game was that he looked old. He did. Not the whole game, and there were still flashes of athleticism from him, but it was the oldest in a full game sample size that he has looked to me at any point in his career as a Titan. And it's really the first time as a Titan that I've watched him play and more than once thought like, oh, that looked kind of elderly. That didn't look spry. That didn't look like the Ryan Tannehill we know, a sneaky athletic, sneaky mobile quarterback in the NFL. And he's 35 years old. I mean, he's getting up there, so it's not crazy to assume he's eventually going to reach a physical cliff of some kind, and that decline is coming, if not already here. But as for like the decision making, the processing, understanding the scheme, comfortability behind the offensive line, and like the seeing ghosts that he was doing a lot of people talking about, like he wasn't mobile enough in the pocket. I don't know. I'd kind of argue maybe he was too mobile in the pocket, especially in the first quarter. He was bailing from a number of clean pockets early, and it felt like he was just uncomfortable and rattled back there for some reason. I don't know if it was a like battered quarterback syndrome after last season when he truly had to just be paranoid at every second in the pocket and assume he's going to get killed from every angle at any moment. Maybe that's the case. Maybe it's again comfortability with the reads in the system. I don't know, but whatever it was, there was certainly some ghost watching going on back there from Ryan Tannehill, and that was concerning to see. But the most concerning part again was that the movement, the physical ability, it started to look old, and that is concerning because if he is starting to get old, if he's lost a step physically, there is no fixing that. You can get more comfortable in the system. You can do a better job with your decision making. You can be more stable in the pocket. You can't reverse father time. And so, as for Tannehill being washed, is he washed mentally? Is he washed in general? I think that's a very big overreaction. But in terms of physically, is he maybe starting to become a little washed? I'd give this a 5, like maybe a little bit more lukewarm of a hot read heat index rating here, because I do think that's the number one thing I'm going to be watching for on Sunday. How does he look physically? Does he look old again? And if so, in what ways? And do they actively impact his performance in the game? Because that's a concerning development.